you, Aliona. And
Thank
let me thank
Aliona.
you. And also shout out Lori Ortiz will be helping us today. She's doing the art and she's the designer as well as one of the editors of the whole thing, of the magazine that is. And we have a new issue, but it's stuck at the printers. It's stuck like right at the nipple of the lamp. And we just have to rub it a little more before it pops out. Here's a copy, a dummy, a gallery of it. Thank you, Lori, for showing that. And I'm looking at everybody and I get blank. Like I see Ari there from Florida. I haven't seen for so long, you know. And anyway, I wanted to thank Aliona for also setting up a whole show last year for Cover Magazine, the predecessor to this one. And it was just over a year ago. And also thank the Hudson Park Library for helping us out on this one today. Now, since Andrei's not here yet.
He's here.
Oh, he's here. There he is. Well, we better stop talking about him in that case. Hi, Andrei. I was going to tell a little story briefly as a way of finishing up my introduction about how he's written more books than any person who ever lived, except maybe before alive, but alive, still alive. So it's a race. But I met Andrei. I was very fortunate to meet Andrei in the summer of 1976, right after I moved here. And immediately it was just like, thought he was the greatest guy ever, of course. And he let me tag around with him some. We went up to Woodstock that summer. And I remember he was like a feature at Dr. Generosity's. And of course he knew Ted and Anselm. And since then he's just written every kind of book. He's a master of so many genres. He's a raconteur non-pareil, as we say up in here, yo. And Andrei, do you want to say something and say hello here before you jump right in? You're going to be reading from new stuff today, correct?
Can you hear me now?
Very well.
Okay, yeah, I didn't. I heard you, you know, just saying all those things. You know, so I was going to say, the Zoom killed poetry, and then you launched into this wonderful introduction, and I lost my pessimism. So, the novel is finally dead. I read a novel about a girl who ran away from school and grew wings. The writer is good, and the wings are real. Then some guy takes her to a hospital, and it turns out that she had a psychotic delusion caused by Oedipal and political issues. Who cut her wings? Her MFA workshop and American publishers, two dying entities that are winding down world literacy. The wing chopping machine requires victims. In this book, the entities killed two birds with one stone, writer and story. So these are the more optimistic new works. This is called The Sentence, and it has three quotes. It starts with three quotes. Paracelsus spoke for such a length of time, his listeners often died of old age. It's a quote from Aleister Crowley. And Alexander von Humboldt, the guy that almost everything is named after, geography, islands, rivers, he said, I started the day counting my wealth, feeding the animals, satisfying my hungers, splitting wood and singing. Now this is optimism. He was a naturalist, you know, so he saw a whole lot of new things, you know, like plants and herbs and animals, and he sent them back to Europe and opened the way for colonialists, for slave traders and exploiters and horrors of every kind. But, you know, he himself saw the new world, so that was sort of interesting, and made pictures of it. I'm not sure it was the, you know, he quite foresaw the flood, but this is called a sentence. The reason why you must not finish anyone's sentence is because you never know how they will finish that sentence. They will never finish it the way you do. You think you know how they will finish it, but you don't. You are a prisoner of time, in quarantine like everyone else, who finishes another sentence for one's convenience. But the speaker of it might finish it radically by suicide. not words, for example? And how can you finish such a sentence, a death sentence you are sharing, but not in or never in words? This caveat is a note to self. Pin it on the refrigerator, the time capsule, squatting like a god at the center of your life, as every sentence has a center of gravity. Also, in the pause between words, where you are tempted to enter as in an open door to finish it for them. It is the forbidden door in the fairy tale. Should I listen to our words from the future? I hear mostly broken sentences spoken by many voices, a habit of speech that scrambles knowledge and advances wisdom, the wisdom of sparing one to the end. It is a kindness to take on another sentence, another's. It is a kindness to take on another's sentence and finish it. A kindness that is not benign, a kindness that fears the truth, the end, the unfolding of thought, and its unpredictable dying in its last words. All sentences are pregnant. So, to go to more things, the joyful reunion of socks. This is a fable. Before COVID, before the internet, hair before and after, the many befores of history, the many afters of life. Ovid before COVID, cliche before poetry, health before sickness, effect before cause, symptoms after the party, Zoom cats after real cats, real people after Zoom people, books before language, Zoom cats in foreground after people in background, Venus before and after, Vino before vengeful, bark before divination, divination after the fact, tree before branch, moss before ice, flora after fauna, fauna before, hug before shaking hands, tremble before hug, answers before questions, potatoes before meat, tiny little notebook of before in the big book of after. And so one of the things I've been doing is reading books written in prison, because it's just a terrific way to pass the time and also fits the, the moment. So I just read a list of these great books written in prison, which, you know, I highly recommend actually. Socrates' Trial and Death by Execution by Farzud Mahutian. Boethius' Consolation of Philosophy, Why Do the Innocent Suffer by Heidi White. This is, of course, you know, I mean, anybody during this pandemic who hasn't read the Consolation of Philosophy must be still unconsoled. Poetic Justice, The Civilization of the Heart in Mallory's Mort d'Arthur by Stephanie Kiseluk, which is really a pretty great book. It's, I mean, it's theory without shame. A Prisoner of Circumstance, Cervantes, Don Quixote, and literary self-authorship in the early modern period. Now, this is literary criticism too, but it's a wonderful book, a novel by Ariel Dorfman called Cautivos or Captives, which is about Don Quixote inside Cervantes, trying to get born. Don Quixote keeps getting Cervantes to try and write him, but Cervantes just keeps drinking and doing all these awful things. He gets taken a slave on the African coast. He spends years in prison. When he gets back to Spain, the Inquisition grabs him and puts him in jail. And so finally Don Quixote is born in jail because that's where he wrote it. And it took, in Don Quixote's inside, Cervantes trying to get the guy to write the damn book so he can come out into the world. It's a wonderful book. It's called Cautivos by Ariel Dorfman, who's a great novelist. He wrote The Death and the Maiden, the movie that Polanski made, and a few other things. Anyway, these are books written in prison. And how much time do we have here, Jeff? I don't hear you. What?
10 minutes?
10 minutes, that's an eternity. All right. Okay, well, this is, these are apologies. What's that? Yeah.
You can do it.
Okay. These are apologies to dead friends, for Jim Gustafson and Jeffrey Miller. Success is my plan for not getting out of bed to achieve prosperity and virtuality. Also, great savings for the tormented mass sitting on the heavy rules in their trunks without tossing or turning to dream the palpable lie of a faraway Jim. My only job is to think, and I should have taken Jim and Jeffrey for prophets, not for drunks. I mean, they were great drunks, but they were prophets. Jim always said, I would really love to live in a place where I never have to get out of bed. You know, I just say, hey, Siri, you know, or Alexa, turn on the TV. This is called memory. I forgot the secret places, but the keys are there. Also the passports and the plane tickets. We're all the same en route and passing through the walls. What I saw was your comma, and what you saw was my coda. Any habit. I will wear a monk's habit like Max Jacob. I was murdered by Nazis in the camps. I am wearing a mask. They're gassing us. The world is a concentration camp. I can't breathe, nobody ever could. I am wearing a mask. Jacob wore a habit. Quote, I love to lift it as I walk up the stairs, unquote. We are creatures of habit, any habit. We always wore masks. We always wore habits. We're always murdered by the Nazis. We don't need any wisdom or foolishness. The stairs go up and up like poison gas. And I think this is a cheerful poem coming up, but I'm not sure. Because I should grab them. It says, adieu to the capital. I've always been free and simultaneously a slave. When being a slave outweighed my freedom, I rebelled so that I was free again to be a slave. I'm now leaving the capital again to the proud owner of self who thinks himself free, or in New York. I'll be at the cave of New York if I will be needed. I will be in the past picking the mushrooms of must. What I do there is to clean my hubris tank of self. I'm aided in this by frogs, fungi, Bukowski, and E.E. They had things in the right size until their eye grew to have something they thought thoughts. Then the city died around me like a dead sea. The misfortune of an audience made us all fake. The misfortune of print spread slavery outside the cave. That's one trap I'll avoid with the freedom I found in all those places and others I won't know. The more I forget, the more I know. Expect mega droughts. Famous dead people who blurbed me. There are actually more, but you know, I just kind of picked them for fame, you know, not for the fact that they're dead. Because I know more dead people than famous people. This is just, at a moment's notice, famous dead people who blurbed me. Kay Boyle, Max Apple, Ronald Sukenik, E.M. Ceron, Spalding Gray, William Burroughs, Anselm Hollow, Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I think to know this many famous dead people is pretty great. I'm sure you know plenty, Jeff. So two more, and right? It's called Extinction. Something I made up in the mirror of enmeshed languages, survived briefly, then died in my lifetime. It was poetry, it was art, it was the ineffable stench of a dying world. I speak two human languages, each one mirrored by its twin and followed by its echo. each word an abstracted world, dying when it is spoken, followed by dreams and the repetition. I think there was more to this poem, but it got lost somewhere. Actually, I was looking through these poems and I found one that looked terrific. And I said, this is great. I was great once. And then I realized actually it was a poem by Auden that somebody had sent me. So I thought, okay, well, we'll take this one out because people will recognize it and think I'm a thief. This last poem I'll read is with Walter Benjamin in Queens, and it is what it says. You can't make a new man, but you can kill old ones. Walter Benjamin in Moscow, 1927, noted posters exhorting the masses with the slogan, "Time is money," attributed to Lenin. The only God the lazy Russians pretended to listen to, but did not, no matter how big Mayakovsky made the letters. New man apexed in Metropolis. Then the execution of prototypes was on. Lenin, like Chernyshevsky, asked, what is to be done? Tramways, sleds, steel factories, babies, breast milk, pioneers. Lenin and the new man capitalized themselves even in this poem, thanks to their monster babies, spell check and autocorrect. There is more. Benjamin went to Moscow at the right time or just in time to escape being an executed prototype or frozen in the tundra. His timing served him by not being in New York either in 2020. A lucky man, he wrote his thoughts and executed himself. He was the new man, after all, not a Leninist, not sci-fi, a free man. And did I say that was the last poem? To be a real poet, I have to lie about that. The other poets say, this is my last poem, and then they read like 5 more. It's just incredible. So maybe I won't. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrei. That was awesome. That was awesome. Wow, so many one-liners. You're better than Auden. You're certainly more...
oh, man, this poem of Auden's is terrific. You know, it starts with Thucydides saying something in it. Yeah, but thank you, though.
Yeah, it was really great. We had a couple of comments and stuff, but I'm thinking like maybe we should just roll on through and we'll take everything at the end if people want to comment and stuff to make sure we're comfortable and stretch it out.
I think I have some Romanian friends listening, but they thought it was at 3:30. Not true.
Oh, man. Hey, speaking of Romanians, Katinka, oh, I can't remember her last name. She's got a Tabacu. She has a gallery in Bucharest that she just, she moved there. Anyway, let's hear it one more time for the great Romanian American Detroit hero of the Lower East Side, Andrei Codrescu.
Thank you. All right.
All right, we'll see if we have time to come back and take some comments. But let's go on now. That was awesome. So Cindy Hochman is, she has a middle name too there. And I have a nickname for her, Cimarron. There you are.
That's a maiden name.
Okay, that's a good one.
Cindy Hochman is my maiden name, and Hochman is the only thing I got in the divorce. I kept his name. I didn't get anything else.
Well, Cindy is a also, besides being a great poet, she's an amazing proofreader. She's done a great job for me. She's working with
I will attest to that. I will attest to that.
Right.
Of Manhattan. She took a
even if you don't use my hyphens.
She took a and made it into a manuscript. I am forever grateful. 100 proof. That's her copywriting, and I cannot endorse it highly enough.
And she has some books out. Yes. And also, just want to mention while I'm seeing Bob Heeman right here at the same time, those two are facing each other in the magazine. And I want to make sure we plug the next show, which is 2 weeks from now, in which Bob will be showing art at that show with Patricia Spears-Jones, Lydia Cortez, and Paco Márquez, and somebody else. I have to remember. But anyway, back to Cindy. She's got a few books out. And also I want to mention, along with the wonderful Karen Newberg, who's here today, that Cindy is the editor of First Literary Review East, which is a fabulous publication. And like several of us, she is a book reviewer as well, and has had books and reviews in a lot of places, including our friend Allison from Crazy Cat Clockwise, and American Book Review very well. Yes.
And Pedestal. I'm on the staff of Pedestal.
There you go.
I'm
and
on
also,
the book.
Speaking of ABR, I'll give a shout out to Barry Wallenstein, who's here, who's a contributing editor too. And Cindy, your poem in there is so great. And also I need to mention just briefly, you have a nice book out with Bob Heeman called The Number 5 is Always Suspect. Yes. So let's please welcome our next reader, Cindy Hochman.
This is The Number 5 is Always Suspect, and Bob did the wonderful collage on the cover. And I'm extremely honored to be reading for Jeff Wright and Live Mag. I can't believe I'm on the same bill as Andrei and all the other luminaries here, honestly. And I also can't believe there are 60 freaking people watching me in my own living room. I'm gonna start. This poem is very short. It's for people like me who have the attention span these days of a flea. It's called Telling You Everything. Now that sounds like it would be a lot of stuff to read, but Charles Simic, whose epigraph, I used an epigraph by Charles Simic, be brief and tell us everything. So I will. I am all moan and bone and dangling participles. My body is hamstrung and jagged. I am a belly full of barren. These days, I've become nothing but chocolate bars and razor blades. It was published in Chanterelle's Notebook, an online publication. This next poem, I'm actually reading because Andrei Codrescu is here, and it references André Breton, which I learned how to pronounce about a year ago, because I always called him Breton. Who knew? It's called Surrealist Convergence. It was published in Unlikely Stories. Thank you, Jonathan Penton. And it sort of sounds like it was written during the pandemic, but it wasn't. But it sort of dovetails into it. Mr. Breton spoke of the marvelous. But what about bewilderment and the bewildered? The chance meeting of a dusty drowse with a stormy gray late afternoon. Immaculate light meeting tarnished darkness in the lonely garbage can alley. My electric mouth kissing your pink fingers one by one in aubergine ecstasy. The world going on and on, even through these strange vapors. Thank you. And now I think it's time for, thank you. I think it's time for a shameless plug. Since Jeff already plugged the collaboration I did with Bob, I don't have to plug that one. But I'm gonna plug Habeas Corpus, which was published by Glass Lyre Press, the lovely people there. Corpus in Latin, as you may know, means body. And every poem in here is a different body part, some sexier than others. And I'm gonna read the first one I wrote of the series. I was actually in the beauty parlor when I wrote it. And it's called Legs. It's a prose poem. Like all of them in the book, they're all prose. Legs. Back when I was ether-eyed and doe-legged, back with my Buddha breaths and a little pastel heart, back with my unruly mop of wild wheat hair and unholy mess of wild thoughts, back when my home was the porcelain throne, back when I smelled of sea spray and foam, back when I had a quick trigger tongue, back when I was not so wound up and not so wounded, back when I'd fall down on my sweet knees and say, God bless these moon-thin legs, jackknifed and splayed with no spider veins, my precious legs in assorted beds. Thank you. And I'm gonna finish off with, actually with the poem that Jeff published in Live Mag. I think it's appropriate to end it there. It's called Inner Life with Sabotage, because we all sabotage ourselves. This poem will be intentionally vague. Candle wicks flicker, candles misfire, crossed wires refuse to untangle. Sometimes I slip into something less comfortable. Carousel horses and streetlights make me weep deeply. My handsome father's death has turned into stilted breath. My benevolent brother's death is still caught in my throat. Everyone gives me flowers to fill the fissure between limbs and loss, and I bury them under layers of what? Nothing but my own undoing. A startled and startling voice tells me to go even deeper than this. Onyx and obsidian wrestle it out with a chest full of white diamonds. Frankly, my dear, I've had enough of dancing through the murk with my not so better angels. Excuse me while I remove this battering ram from my solar plexus. Let me open my palms to the hazy sunshine. I promise I will stop shaking soon. Thank you very much.
Yay, Cindy Hochman.
So much, Cindy. It's a pleasure to hear your poetry after your very strict grammatical rules.
And also the author of Carcinogenic Bride, Cindy Hochman, everybody. That was amazing. Yay.
Thank you.
And now for a change of pace, we're going to see some artwork by Helen Oji. And as we go through these, we're going to look at 6 images. The first one's in the magazine, and it was also actually the one that's on the invite from the library. So that's very cool. And it'll be remembered for a long time and archived and stuff. So let's start that now. Lori's going to run this.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, yes, I love this one. It sort of reminds me a lot of nature, but it's like got that great artifice part of it. Did you want to say anything about it, Helen?
Yes. Well, it's the title Tambos means dragonfly in Japanese. And while I was growing up, during the summers, there would be these dragonflies on the highway or in the garden. My father was a farmer, and he would always tell me that dragonflies were good luck. And so this image is actually, I feel like, and I painted it last year, I just felt like we needed some auspiciousness in our lives somehow. And the dragonflies actually come up in my work every so often. And I think my first ones were in 1980. So it's an image. So a lot of my animal imagery pops up. It continues with me.
Okay, that's great. Let's look at the next one. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, this one is called Red Squirrel, Black Squirrel. And I became kind of obsessed with squirrels. I have a whole squirrel collection, but in this, it's painting is very important in creating shapes. So I don't get into the details so much of my images. It's really about the shape relationship and the colors too. So what you can't see here is that there are multiple layers of paint, and I really try to refine the shape of it and how they relate to each other by color and form.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of that in the tail easily here even. Let's go on to the next one.
Oh, this one, it's a repeated image of a black cat, but I'm very interested in, well, my work is a fusion of my Japanese heritage and things from my daily life, but this cat keeps coming up throughout from the early 70s, I guess. I used to have a black cat, but in this one, I'm really interested in the brush stroke, so that if I think about it, I put my brush down and I create the image. It doesn't always happen that it comes out just perfect, so sometimes I'll have to adjust some things, but that's the idea of it. It's the concept of taking the brush and making it look quick, although sometimes it's not.
Well, I was going to actually ask you about the Japanese heritage, because to me these have a lot of that kind of legacy and that kind of technique and concerns and all. Let's go to the next one. We have 3 more. Okay.
Oh, this one is called Puppy Love. And I actually it was a picture on a calendar, but you know, I again couldn't see on the calendar there was much more detailed, but in this it's about just the feeling of what a puppy will do and look at you, and so it captures that feeling, but through painting.
Woof woof.
Woof.
Okay. Oh, Lori, we can't hear you. Lori, you want to say something? Lori's been practicing.
Oh, your mic is off, Lori.
Lori, we can't hear you. She's talking to somebody else.
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
I just said those dots, you know, make it look like the puppy's moving.
Yeah, but that was actually, when I was painting it, I just loved the brush, what happened when I applied the paint.
Mm-hmm.
I just liked it because it's shaking, but at the same time, it's just how I lay colors on there. Maybe 4 different colors in that brown.
Looks like it's shaking off the paint.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I love
Poodle. Red Teddy.
Red Teddy.
There it is in there.
Well, sometimes this is a work on paper, and sometimes when I'm starting, it'll be just one color, and then this image of the teddy bear just appeared to me. I was painting, and then the shape appeared, and it became a bear. So not all the time is something planned, you know, and that's what the magic of making paintings is like for me. I just start from a place, and then sometimes I have something in mind, but a lot of times, like this one, I don't, and it just appeared. So sometimes an image will come to me.
It's a regular puka.
Yeah.
Okay, and one more?
Yeah.
Oh, 2 more.
Oh, 2 more. Okay. This one is it's called, you know, it's a window face. And across the street, I live across the street from this big building, and every night well, every so often the lights change and it creates these faces. And some of them are really spooky and some of them are not, but this is an impression from that window. And I have a lot of photographs of the window faces and also some other paintings.
This is very nice. Abstract breaks from the rest.
It's very ominous.
What's that?
It's very ominous. It's powerful.
I think it's kind of cute.
Or you look at it.
Well, this one's cute. Some of them look like dogs or cats.
It does. It kind of has the same expression as the other animals.
Yeah.
The robot dog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now the next one actually reminded me of an animal.
Oh, well, this is also a repeated image for me. It actually started, I started doing these coat hangers, you know, when I had a job with Eileen Fisher, and I used to work as a merchandiser and a designer, but then sometimes we would stack the hangers like that. And then it became like, oh, that was my survival, you know, it's kind of a way I survived was I worked in design. I loved that. And then at the same time, it reminded me it's like a backbone.
Yes.
You know, and and so during the pandemic, it's like we're surviving.
It's like we're holding ourselves up.
We're holding ourselves up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Helen. Let's hear for Helen. This one's in the issue. It's the most beautiful.
Yeah.
So glad to have your walk us through them. That was great,
Thanks
Helen.
for inviting me into Live Mag.
You're so welcome. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
Expand our community. There it is.
Here's Helen in the mag.
Yay.
I love it. I love being part of.
Thank you, Helen.
Thanks.
Okay, so next up we have Miss Elena Jennings. And Elena has got been doing a lot of stuff. She's like, not only is she working with press in Queens, hosting readings in Queens, she's also very involved with KGB, our favorite watering hole there, and Shrine. And she's in the new anthology there that they just put out with some of their heavy hitters like David Lehman. And I think Star Black is in there, you know. And also she's got a beautiful website, and she's got about 6-8 books on there. Not quite as many as Andrei yet, but quite a few. And I just wanted to read a couple of titles. I think the newest one is Songs from an Apartment, Pray to the Empty Wells, Absolute Zero, which is actually a children's story. And let's please welcome Miss Elena Jennings.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you to the Live Mag staff and everyone at Live Mag for inviting me to this reading. I'm really happy to be here. The first poem I'll read is called Unraveling, and it's actually one from that was published in KGB Bar Lit. I am dreaming that clothes are coming apart. There is a sudden need for needles and thread. There are buttons on the floor like seashells. We try to make the outdoors in our living rooms. I have a measuring tape around my neck. I have a single pin between my teeth. The outside comes in. I brace myself like for a wave. Everything comes to me in pieces. I put it together. The clamoring of the sewing machine, squinting at the thread to make sure it goes straight into the needle, the vintage fabric smelling of strange closets, the comfort of the fabric rubbed against my cheek, the metallic flavor of pins. Everything comes to me in pieces. From the outside that has been closed to us come velvet, silk, cotton. I stick my head out the window wearing fancy dresses, dressed for myself. In this isolation, we live for ourselves. We have long conversations with mirrors. The past is almost erased. We forget what it was like to go out. The sun shines more often when I am home. It does so to tempt me. We establish a dialogue, the sun and I. I put out my bare arms. I ask for the sun to warm me, for a careful caress. I learn to be touched by something so far away. I learn what distance really is. My friends have also fallen into the landscape of their apartments. We whisper to each other. We stick our ears out the window and attempt to hear a voice. The next poem is called My Past Self. My past self is unsatisfied. I wanted the dog to leave the room. I wanted jelly shoes even if the plastic made my feet bleed. I wanted her to fill out the carbon copy forms with her name and address. I wanted her to let me wear the purple dress in the playhouse. I wanted a miniature red rosebush in the new garden. I wanted to go to public school. How do I satisfy my past self? I think, having a beer after my shift waiting tables, and I pay no attention to details. Sometimes I scream driving home about revolution and diamonds, about nothing I know anything about, but these are the songs on the radio. And instead of satisfaction, I create more empty space. When I get out of the car, the wind from the tree blows through me. My past self doesn't long for her anymore. My past self can't find her passport, so is stuck at home. My past self imagines walking from the plane and into her arms. My past self is filled with the sound of the engine. And finally, the last poem I'll read is one of the poems published in Live Mag. It's called Containers. He gave me a basket for the coffee beans. Bite into them and feel the grit in your mouth. He kissed me and I could taste his reflection in the mirror. It was like water, my tongue against glass. Gave me a bottle for my sadness. In it I could collect my tears. He told me that I needed to empty the bottle, wash them down the drain, leaving only salt. He gave me a matchbox for my goldfish. My first experience with love lies limp in cardboard. I would transfer that feeling of warmth of other living things. He gave me a coat for my body. It would hold the pieces together, my arms in the sleeves, the buttons up to my chin, and my hands pressed into the pockets until I opened myself to snow. Thank you.
Oh, how beautiful. Wow.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
No, I thought it said I opened myself to foam. That was a different poem, maybe. Anyway, that was great, Elena. Thank you so much. And now we're going to hear from one of the greatest, fastest speaking, daredevil, word twisting cyclones of verbiage you've ever heard. And for a proper introduction, let's turn it over to our good friend, deputy editor, Ilka Scobie.
Hey, it's my great pleasure to introduce my long-term friend, David Mills, who is an award-winning poet, 2 collections, The Dream Detective and The Sudden Country. He's a native New Yorker, a world traveler, and he's a brilliant educator. For many years, we've hung out together, and he's a work comrade as well as an inspiration. And not to mention, he has one of the sexiest and most compelling of voices. And by this, I mean that when he speaks, his voice is beautiful, and I know you will enjoy it. And I don't see him here, but David, please take it away.
He's a stud, David.
Yeah, good afternoon, all. Great readings. Jeff, thank you, and Ilka, thank you. And in that vein of World Traveler, this first piece is called Illiterate Fish. It's about me being in Poland, having a romance with a Polish woman who didn't speak much English, and I didn't speak much Polish. Illiterate Fish. As the gypsy king snap and tickle starlight, your feet summon tapioca ghosts from witch's dust. The way doves dress themselves in glass after mistaking a window pane for a cloud, my pupils confuse your sable bangs for condors streaking above your eyes as your skies. We serve each other words as Pavel becomes the net in our singles ping pong match. May I buy you a drink? The whites of Pavel's eyes backspin with your volley. Barja dobja, why weren't he asked to make love? Pavel, don't ruin this, man. May I drink you by the light crawling out of the moon? Due to his tipsy fibs, I place a word on Pavel's tongue. Esplanade, verb, to attempt an explanation while drunk. Another, flatulence, noun, the emergency vehicle I commandeer which scrapes Pavel up once he's plastered by a steamroller for trying to thwart my chances. This way he wouldn't have to get around with a limp, verb, to walk with a lisp. At a bar, you mix potions that unbutton tongues. Pour me upstairs. The angel twirling beneath the slick tent our tongues make pinwheels backwards through time. Our first kiss flew to Iceland, then smooched the end scene between Bavaria and the country this kiss was headed for. In Sobotchi, a Polish whistle stop, this kiss had to show its passport 3 times. Apparently, this kiss was unrecognizable with its duds, a mustache, and brown eyes. Dressed in darkness, this kiss wondered how the night worked its way into 2 men's shoulders, the way snow needs its way into stone. This kiss noticed people staring as it boarded a 10:07 train to Łódź. What's so unusual about a pair of lips kicking back in the dining car? I wonder if you now know this kiss, inches from your lips, hums with all this history. I carve your bone-black outfit from your skin. My tongue appraises your creamy, naked landscape. I'll never have to teach you words like flabbergasted, verb, to give up all hope of ever having a flat tummy. As your hands clamp down on my BVDs, I teach you your first word in English, circumvent, noun, the opening in the front of boxer shorts. Wearing a condom, I slowly enter a foreign country. As we scrub each other's skin till daylight creeps, you repeatedly coo, Barja. I come, white chocolate anoints the roof of my Trojan. Ni spach. You break night, but moments later you're yanking on me like a poodle, too stupid to follow the edicts in your leash. We spoon in Pavel's bed with a yellow Polish-English dictionary snug between us. Our Berlitz Berlin wall, east to west, woman to man, communicating till the sea that purrs between us burns and flees. We glisten with brief interludes of, you tired? Or answering the door, you learn negligent, adjective, a condition where you absent-mindedly get the door in your nightie. I now know Barja Dobja means very good, but back on the backside of the Atlantic, my heart is 2 question marks, staring at each other, but afraid to come closer, afraid that no dictionary is equipped to translate 2 tongues that once danced like illiterate fish. New York has the oldest and largest slave cemetery in the United States, and finishing up a manuscript about this, there was a revolt in 1712. An enslaved individual named Klaus was mistakenly rounded up. Interestingly, we talk about the Salem witch trials. It was actually never a white woman who was burned at the stake, but there were 28 enslaved Negroes and Spanish Negroes, as they call them, who were burned at the stake here in New York for participating in this. Klaus was actually broken on the wheel, but he actually had not participated in the revolt. Mercy. The epigraph is from Thomas Jefferson. Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just. Mercy. Along the city's jawline, by the wharf where a peck of slaves were auctioned, Klaus might have heard tell how Robin sunk a penny knife into the cant below his owner's shoulder. Now barefoot, he is stripped to the waist, spread eagle, bound to a wagon wheel, spokes versed in grass in its green obedience, mud's scorched metamorphosis, the way snow delivers news piecemeal from the heavens. Limbs stretched, slowly rotated on that wheel. Klaus absorbs the dust, the turns, the deliveries, each journey's leg and arm. Executioners seldom traffic in compassion. This one punishes Klaus bottom up. First a sledgehammer rains on his shins. Jesus have mercy, he screams and rotates until they snap between gaps of the wheel. A wooden cudgel sings to his kneecaps. He howls and rotates till they shatter. Even the chalky, taunting throng winces. Then the thunder of an iron bar is administered to his forearms. He shrieks and rotates till they're smashed. The elbows, the chest, the endless bone cracking caught a quarter of a mile off until, against God's own architecture, each limb dips like a fractured hammock. On the commons, between Broadway and Kip, the wheels nailed high on a pole. Sparrowhawks peck at the broken body. For 4 days, for likely only having offered Robin a penny knife or shelter in the wee hours of an April morn, he is bloody, billowing laundry. Only death has the stomach to dry. Happy Women's History Month.
Thank you, David Mills. Oh, that was very moving, man. Really strong, powerful stuff. Wow. You're awesome, man. You can really range the tonalities from humorous to profound, you know.
Thank
and
you.
you're sexy, man. Not just your voice, Ilka, right? Okay, guys, thanks. We have to wrap it up real fast now. A couple of plugs. 2 weeks from now, we'll be back with the same show. Thanks, Alyona. We will have Patricia Spears-Jones, Lydia Cortez, art by Bob Heeman, and Paco Márquez, and one other person.
You, Jeff.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm going to show my little puppet show.
And Jeff, we want to make sure to thank Alyona again for the fabulous work she does at the library, and also to Emil at Hudson Park for being on.
And